Usman grew up as one of 17 children in a Muslim family in Nigeria. Um, one of the important memories of his childhood was when his father invited two young Christian children to join the family, and they adopted them. And that made a very big impact. Usman, I may ask you to say more about that later. His father died when he was 11 years old, and going to school was not free, that it had to be paid for. And so at age 11 years old, he started working as a laborer. He managed to graduate from school, from secondary school, and he entered Bayero University in Kano, Nigeria, and supported himself there by learning the trade of a fashion designer. He got his BS in zoology from the university. He's worked at a number of places since then. There's an organization called Mahima, the Mayaka Health and Education Mobilization Association. He was a volunteer and then later an advisor. He's worked for the Ministry of Environment and Forestry for the Bauchi state government. He's worked as a master trainer in reproductive health and HIV/AIDS prevention for UNICEF Nigeria. And he's received also a grant to do similar work from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and there's a lot more. He's currently working for eHealth Africa as a project supervisor. And the organization that he has started, and I gather with lots of support from Len and Libby Traubman, is FACIS, F-A-C-I-S, Forward Action for Conservation of Indigenous Species, where he brings together Christians and Muslims who are in conflict with each other around a set of shared common interests, which is the environment that everyone depends on, and cooperating in growing local organic food, which everyone can share and eat. So that's just a starter. So Usman, I want to ask you if you can share with us, I think what a lot of people will be interested in is tell us a little bit of the work you've been doing recently with FACIS.
Well, thank you, Ayet, for that wonderful presentation about me, actually. I couldn't have done more than what you just did. Yeah, FACIS is just a small community-based organization that was founded in 2008, and as a group of committed friends who shared the same minds and views about environment and relationship building. It's just a small community-based organization, like I said, and we're operating here in northeastern part of Nigeria, particularly in Bauchi State, where I reside. FACIS has two key focus areas as environment, with special interest in climate change, and also peace building. That's two key areas.
Okay, let's stop here a moment. One of the things that you and I figured out is that my being challenged in understanding Nigerian accents
Oh, yeah.
may be shared by some of the rest of us on this end. So I just want to give back what I heard. And also, I want to let everybody know that we do have the chat function at the bottom of your screen. And sometimes I may ask Usman to text us about what he's saying. And anyone can also ask a question. So what you've said is that
Okay. Hello.
yeah.
Or maybe I can share my screen with everyone there, so that
Sure.
so that as I read, each and every one there can also see what I'm reading. Like you said, the problem with the accent, that might be a very bit difficult for some of them that are hearing my voice for the first time, especially. Unlike people like you, Libby, and Len, who we've been together for quite a number of years. I'm sure you guys can get me. All right. So
great idea. So go ahead and share your screen. Yeah.
Okay. Even though you actually have I've given a brief about
Okay, we're beginning to see your screen. There we go. We can see it. Yeah, can everyone see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
all right. Okay. I'm sure, like I said earlier, you've said a lot about me, but I would like to add one thing. My full name is Usman Mohammed Inua. That's my full name.
Got it.
Like I put it down here, I'm an environmental peace activist and social innovator who is also trying to connect people of different tribes, culture and religion together to really learn to listen to one another and share their stories. And I really must say a big thanks to Libby and Lane for giving me all the support here and the knowledge that I got that I'm using here, in bringing people together. That really came from them. This is with a view to bridging the gaps, between the working groups and individuals who were hitherto living as friends and very good neighbors. But because of some reasons, which might be cultural, political, religious differences, that suddenly turned them to be enemies overnight. Like I said earlier, I live and work in northeastern Nigeria that is now devastated by violent crisis and insurgency activities. The Boko Haram activities that led to the massacre of so many people here in northeastern Nigeria. So the problems were further compounded by the Boko Haram and other terrorist groups. I would like to point out here, it's not only Boko Haram that are terrorizing people in the northern part of Nigeria, particularly the northeastern part of Nigeria. There are other groups also. So because of the tradition and religion, men in this part of the country are entitled to marrying 4 wives for Muslims, and to as many as 10 by some traditionalists. And this is where over 90% of our people are peasant farmers, who depend on subsistence farming for a living. I've been a facilitator for almost a decade now, and like I said earlier, very passionate, very, very passionate about facilitating dialogues in communities where there are violent conflicts between warring Muslims and Christians. And I would like to share this photo with you. I hope you're all seeing the photo.
Yeah.
It's one of the activities or the event we had here in northern Nigeria where we brought Muslims and Christians from tense areas where they experienced crisis, violent crisis in the past. So we brought them together. The organization I'm working with, like I said, Forward Action for Conservation of Indigenous Species, is a non-profit making organization, a non-religious, non-partisan organization that really cultivates the culture of peace and justice by engaging people to bridge religious and cultural differences and work together for the protection and also management of the environment. We're into preservation and conservation of environment. And yes, today I would like to share from one of the stories of my peacemaking effort here in northern Nigeria. That's one of the workshops that we had back in 2013, which I titled the Seed for Peace Seminar. Can you all see this picture?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Yeah. You can see the first picture by the left is a woman from one of the tense areas in Bauchi State, where a lot of people were brutally massacred, slaughtered, sharing her experience. And on the other side also is a man from another area that equally experienced that kind of brutal killings, sharing his own part of the story. Now, the idea behind this seminar was basically relationship building, which brought together eager Muslims and Christian farmers from near and far to listen to stories of one another and exchange open-pollinated organic seeds, and to learn how bio-intensive farming is being done in other parts of the world. Like I said earlier on, over 90% of our people here are farmers. And the farming they do is actually at a subsistence level. You can also see the picture of some of the pollinated organic seeds that were brought by the participants from their villages. And these seeds were actually exchanged. Those that brought seeds from their own side give to other people from the other side of the divide. And I also would like to say, from 1991, Bauchi State, where I live, which is located in the northeastern part of Nigeria, continued to experience a religious and political crisis, with hundreds of people massacred, like I said earlier, and many churches, as well as mosques and family homes, burnt down. Now,
let me see if I understood you correctly, Usman, that what you were saying was that Bauchi State is a part of Nigeria where there is interreligious conflict and much destruction, not only killing of people, but destruction of churches and of mosques. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. In the northeastern part of Nigeria, we have 6 states in the region, which Bauchi is among the states. And in all these 6 states in northeastern part of Nigeria, we've been having a lot of crises, that resulted to killings. And as of today, the United Nations Population Funds, based on their reports, indicated that there are about 1.5 million internally displaced people in the region, and mostly women and children. So the Seed for Peace seminar was meant to, one, bring citizens of different religions, tribes, and cultures in the tensed areas to sit at the same table for learning to listen to one another, share their own stories, and discover that, like one of the American novelist said, an enemy is one whose story we've not heard. Yeah, and the women and men were actually brought together in order to serve as the beginning of the new movement of what we call Grow Biointensive Agriculture, which will ultimately help people to have organic food on their tables and a way of generating income. Grow Biointensive farming is a new system of farming which is not labor intensive, which is ecologically friendly, that helps people to generate income apart from putting getting what to eat. So in the seminar, we actually brought 20 participants comprising men, women, and youth, who actually experienced tension, fear, and lack of trust from many ethno-religious crises in their areas. All the women and men participants are farmers, like I said earlier, who either own a farm land or harvest their crops, their food on rented farmlands. And one of the things that I would like to clearly brought up here is the strategy that I used, which really helped me in the smooth conduct of the meeting, was the use of participants from a village called Gar community in one of the local government areas here in Bauchi State called Al-Kaleri, because they are, model of Muslim and Christians who peacefully living together despite differences of religion. They shared how they've been dealing with misunderstanding and disagreement that arises between them with the rest of the participants. That's one of the strategies I used.
Usman, I just want to do a brief time check here, that I want to make sure we have the time for the dialogue in the circle.
Yeah.
So I want to ask two things, is that if this part of the story, if you can take about another 5 minutes or so, and then also, would you be willing to share this document with the people on this call so people can also look at it that way later?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. I think
So in
it's
about 5 minutes, then I'll ask Len and Libby to offer any further remarks that they might have, and then we'll open it to the circle.
Okay.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. Can you all see this picture?
Yes.
All right. These two men came from the village called Gar village in Bauchi local government, where Muslims and Christians have been living peacefully with one another. So I brought them in the midst of these participants that came from tensed areas, from crisis areas, violent crisis areas. They shared their stories, how they've been living peacefully with one another, how they've been communicating with one another, and that really, helped a lot of them to open up, to see that, yeah, truly an enemy is one whose story they've not had. So the participants were asked some questions. I'm going to share these documents with all the participants here. So I think due to time constraints, I'll not be reading the questions that were asked during the seminar. Though, what I want to say here is the questions really brought out a lot of things from the participants. They shared their stories, they shared their feelings, they share how they feel about, the Christians share how they feel about Muslims, the Muslims share how they feel about Christians. Each one chose a partner and sat in pairs, shared their stories in 5 minutes. For another 5 minutes, a generous number of peers were asked to share their experiences with others in a hall room. And after listening to 4 different peers, I asked these questions. I asked others to reply aloud to some questions. These are the questions: the meaning of the experience, the importance of the stories they've had, and so on and so forth. After that, we also projected a film, just a 10-minute video clip of how Grow by Intensive Farming is being done in Kenya. That's where I learned the skill. So we watched the film together, and then in the end, we asked the participants to shake hands and to exchange seats. Let me end with this. The key learning point for me in that meeting were actually 2. 1, it became very clear to me that people can only refuse to be enemies only if they come and listen to one another. Only when they open their hearts to one another. That's when they will refuse to be enemies. And 2, I also made to realize that preaching peace alone is not enough. For if we want to have true and sustainable peace, we must continue to generate innovative ideas, innovative ways that will keep the warring parties in constant touch with one another. This is just a story from one of the stories that we have about how we conduct our activities between Muslim, Christians, and to some extent the other traditional followers that are also found in this part of the world. Thank you.